This DeBacco University video is going to look at some of the beneficial insects that you would like to find on your cannabis plants. It will also end with a picture of a nice lady beetle nymph crawling around on a cannabis plant, helping control some aphids on that plant. All right, let's get into beneficial insects for cannabis plants, ones that we would want to see and identify. So first off, what's this kind of video lecture going to cover? Well, these are going to be the ones that we're going to go through and cover. So if there's anyone in particular interest, you can go through and jump to that one, or at least you know the ones that will be covered. And again, these are the ones we want to find or encourage to live in and around our plants. So the first one, Syrphid flies, or called hoverflies a lot of times, or flower flies sometimes. Most beneficial for targeting mostly slow-moving, soft-bodied insects such as mealybugs and especially aphids. They can also attack scale and some species of thrips. So this just kind of shows you some of these hoverflies, what they look like, or flower flies in the adult stage, the larva stage, and then here is one actively feeding on a colony of aphids. So again, it's just going to give you this brief overview of find this insect, what it might go through, and be best utilized for controlling. Then we have green lacewings here, and these adults feed on nectar, pollen, and honeydew, while the larvae are active predators of soft-bodied insect pests. So it's the larvae the ones that are really doing most of the feeding. This is an example of one of the larvae right here. Look, a little scary. What does it feed on? Well, it feeds mostly on aphids, thrips, whiteflies, leafhoppers, spider mites, especially red mites, and also mealybugs. So it sounds like a pretty great list here of insects that these feed on. You want to purchase larvae, as this is the most advantageous for immediate treatment of a pest problem. If you are purchasing the adults, as we see right here and here for size orientation, you are seeking to establish a population. It's the larvae that do the main feeding on those pest insects. The adults, you're looking at establishing a population in your area, which would not be a bad thing. You can also purchase eggs that will soon hatch into larvae and kind of start the cycle as well. Then we have the Collops Beetle here. So here they are important predators for soft-bodied insects, whiteflies of all stages of whiteflies, small Lygus nymphs, aphids, mites, lepidopteran eggs, as well as caterpillars. These can be important for the natural control of whiteflies in field applications along with selective insecticides. So again, if you're having that kind of whitefly issue, this might be one worth considering. Then we also have, next up, we have the Damsel Bug. They're predators of aphids, moths, eggs, and small caterpillars. This also includes corn earworms, as well as European corn borer, imported cabbage worm, and some armyworms. Very important pests, particularly for those outdoor growers. Other prey may include leafhoppers, small soft flies, larvae, mites, tarnished plant bugs, nymphs, asparagus beetles, collared potato beetle eggs, and nymphs as well. We can see these damsel bugs in the adult and nymph stage and how they look at the different stages here. They call the nymph stage this kind of ice cream cone shaped body, and here we have the adult pictured there. Again, good insects to be on the lookout for. Then spotted assassin bugs. There are different species of assassin bugs. So it's not just a one-size-fits-all necessarily, but these are one of the largest, at least in size, of the insect predators. They typically feed on voracious caterpillars such as corn earworms, zebra caterpillars, and yellow-striped armyworms. Here's an example of an adult assassin bug, and we can see some others as well, as also in the larval stages and the egg stage. Again, these assassin bugs do just as the name implies. They go through and they try to assassinate other hopefully negative bugs that are in your area, and these will be the beneficial ones. Then we have the pirate bugs here. So these are really small. So again, as a comparison, most of these bugs are small. The assassins are on the larger side. Try to show you a size orientation here. These are one of the most common general predators in field crops, but can also be used for indoor growing environments as well. Merging early in the spring, their diet consists of a variety of small pests, which include thrips, whitefly nymphs, and aphids, as seen in the images here. Whiteflies here, and here's some aphids. They reproduce quickly and complete their total life cycle in just 3 to 4 weeks, making them effective at handling serious infestations relatively quickly. And again, they are small, as size comparison here, the aphids, and they are larger, but they're not that much larger. So be aware of the size of these when you're trying to go through and identify if you have them or not. Lastly, up here we have the lady beetles, or also known as just simply ladybugs. And there are different species of lady beetles we can see here, so I'll try to give you just a little variety. They're natural enemies of many insects, in particular aphids and other sap-feeding insects. Some species prefer mite or scale populations, so if using them as a biological control, check to make sure you're maximizing the effectiveness for your situation. What insect are you trying to get them to control? Now, as mentioned, this is ladybugs. Their kind of nymph stage looks very different than their adult stage. This is a beneficial insect. This is the time when they do consume, they get into that life cycle of consuming aphids. So if you have aphids around, having these around is a good thing. And I've included a short video where I did find a nymph feeding on some aphids on a cannabis plant that I welcome you to watch and enjoy. Now, not all bugs are bad. Here we're looking at, right here, a ladybug kind of nymph or larval stage. This is important when we're looking at having beneficial insects, and they are great at controlling aphids. And sadly, this plant does have some aphids on it. So having some beneficial insects, such as showing that we're having that progression, that completed life cycle, will help naturally reduce the pest population without doing any damage to the crop here. However, in order for them to be effective, they must be applied early and in large numbers. And here we're in a large greenhouse, so it is definitely beneficial in keeping them kind of trapped in here, so you're not losing them to the outside. But there can also be times where applying them to an outside environment would be warranted.